What we got today is an AC. It's a number 9926 38 to 53 Mopar. 38 to 52, they had a glass bowl on it. And 53 and up, they changed it to this metal cover with the screen underneath. It's unique because it's got 7 screws. There's one extra one comes up from the bottom. You get the 6 around the outside and one up here. We're going to go through it and clean it up and get it ready to go back on the car. Most of the time what you do is mark the location of the fuel casting to the body, but where this has 7 screws, it can only go on one way. Your first order of business, get these fittings out of the way, and then remove this center bolt. Underneath this bolt is a fiber washer. Now, these things are usually stuck down pretty good. So what I do is I get a screwdriver, and you can fix this. If you end up denting this right in this area, you can fix it again. Only takes a second. Just pry it off to one side, and you'll get access to the filter screen. Make sure you get all this old gasket off. And remove that first screw. Obviously you got to take it out from the bottom. And take out the rest of the screws. And the last one. A lot of times these castings are stuck down because they're usually they've been in service for quite a few years. Get a putty knife. Put it in between the 2 castings. Usually this is where you find out when you left one of the screws in, but this isn't the case. Yeah, this is an original diaphragm, because the way you can tell is the diaphragm is made up of several different layers of tar-coated canvas. This gives you access to the inlet and outlet valve. To get all these out of the way so you can get that diaphragm out of there. This can be one of the most challenging parts of a rebuild, is getting this diaphragm out. What we want to do is we're going to push it down, tip it back, and then scoot the bottom out to unhook it. And if that doesn't work, which is not going to with this one, here's another little trick. Hang on to the back of the diaphragm. A couple of good snaps right in here. It pops it right off. There's a seal down inside of here. All I do is take a screwdriver, put it down through the center of it, this retainer and just peel it out. As you can tell, the seal was well used. Back in the early days when these were new, when you got a diaphragm assembly, it consisted of 3, 4, or 5 layers of this canvas. It's coated with tar, and before you install it, you get kerosene and soak it in kerosene. It loosens up all the tar, put the thing all together, which explains why it's so hard to get apart, because it's actually glued itself together, glued itself to the casting. Anyway, this one here is going to take a trip through the wash tank because it's just filthy. You want to order a kit, look on your pump right around this mounting flange and you'll see that number, 9926. It could be 588 if it has a glass bowl. In either case, you're going to need that number. That helps the person you talk to on the phone identify exactly which kit you need. Now, to get these valves out, it's pretty simple. Remove the center screw along with the clamp, and the valves just pop out. Usually underneath them there's a gasket. And there's one under this one. Now this is going to take a trip to the wash tank too. So we're going to put the screw back in. Don't forget to remove that fiber washer off of there. Let's back you out a little bit. Probably pretty stuck in there. Just run around it with a razor blade, pry it off, screwdriver, whatever you got. Sometimes it's easier to cut it. And gets it out of there a little quicker. So we're gonna let this soak for a little while. Get some of this grease and grime off it. And then we're gonna take a run through the wash tank. The glass beater. And we'll take it out of there and wash it again. Then we'll clear coat it. Flatten out all the surfaces. And then it's time for reassembly. So we'll be back. Just one extra little thing that I forgot. The customer was a little concerned about the amount of wear on this, on the arm. He felt it was excessive. It really isn't. In order for me to repair this, I'd have to cut down into it probably another 1/8 of an inch so that I could braze over the top of this to make it flat again. But there's just not enough. There's not enough wear there. If I was to measure the amount that there is, it's roughly 15 thousandths, which is that much. But the customer requested it, so I'm going to change it against my better judgment. In order to do that, first we got to get this spring out of the way, which is very simple to do. Probably should have let it go through the wash tank first. Anyway, There's a washer that's right here. If I can't get it to show up. There's a washer right here. You just got to cut that. Use a good sharp chisel. Just cut that washer off. And then find the right punch. Just knock that pin down through. And let it fall on the floor like I just did. I'm going to need that again, so as long as the floor gnomes haven't grabbed it and ran off with it. Anyway, that's how you get the pin out. As you can see, a lot of muck on this one. And what happens a lot of times, if you're not going to replace the arm, the pin, which you don't have to, unless you find any kind of movement, any side-to-side movement in the arm, that it moves a little bit too much. But as you can see, this one here was worn enough so that it would have affected between that wear that's on the arm and this wear that's on this. It would have reduced the amount of fuel that it would flow or would pull into the pump, and could possibly lessen the amount of fuel that goes up to the carburetor. So this, on this particular case, this is a good call. Okay, we're in the final stages. Surfaces are flat, body's clear coated, glass beaded, clear coated. Remember how dirty it was before. This is all ready for its new arm, and very carefully slide this in, and we go up from underneath here just to line it up, make sure everything stays right. Now the new pin that comes with it in our kit has 2 grooves in it, one at either end. And you'll probably get 3 of these, only because one of them will probably fall and you're never going to find it. Just let it follow the other one right through. Sometimes a little persuasion helps. It'll go through. It just needs to be helped, so to speak. Just let it go through enough so that you can still get one of these, or both of these little circlips. It's a little tough if you got fat fingers. Set it in there, pair of needle nose, and snap it on. Same thing with the other side. Remember I talked about dropping it? That's just what I did. It'll sit right in that groove and keep it from sliding out. Put the spring in. Be careful it doesn't slide off, because it'll take off. I have no idea where that one went. Now I gotta go get another one. Okay, put the new spring on. The only purpose of this spring is to keep this arm in contact with the camshaft. It has nothing to do with the pressure or the volume or anything, other than keeping that arm in contact with the cam lobe. Now we want a seal and a retainer. We make these seals here. We have these retainers made to our specs. Just make sure that you put the seal in the right way. It goes over the top and down inside. If you put it on upside down, you're going to ruin it. Make sure it's sitting in the center. Drive it home. Get a dull slotted screwdriver, or do like I did and take a sacrificial chisel and flatten out the end of it. Go around the outside of this 4 places. You want to dimple the casting just like that. Keeps that retainer from lifting up and the seal from lifting up and making a mess. And you want to take a little dab of oil, put it in the center, just to keep that pull rod from drying out, running dry I should say. Now remember, this will only go on one way. If you're ever curious as to when this particular one came out of the casting mold, you look right in here. Each one of these straight lines is a month. There's April of '53 that this one here came out. Anyway, remember that this only goes on one way. Hook it onto that link that was in there, or that's still in there. Next order of business is fuel casting. 2 different size holes. It'll go in one way comfortably. It won't fit in the other way. Again, some of these pumps don't have this clamp. They'd have pressed in valves. That just tells me it's a later model. It's a later casting. If you have that style on this style pump, then in order to get the valves out, take a screwdriver and drive it through the center of it, right to one side, and it'll pop it up. The other side, just catch it underneath the cage and pop it up. Remember, there's gaskets underneath them. we want the screen. Screen goes in first. Gasket. And the metal cover that I didn't flatten out the part that I bent a little bit. There, it's fixed. And don't forget the fiber washer. And you want to tighten this down. Don't over tighten it. Just tighten it down enough so that it seals. Remember, it's steel bolt going into cast aluminum. Over tighten it, you'll pull the threads out. Now you want to make sure that these valves are sealed in here good. This is the inlet. Here's the outlet. You should be able to blow air in and not suck any air out. The outlet's a little different. You have to block off this part. But you should be able to suck air out and not blow any air in. And that one works. And that one works. That tells you that this is, you got a good seal here, you got a good seal around this. Time for some assembly. Remember, it only goes on one way, so you don't have to look for any reference marks. Get two of the screws caught, one on one on opposite sides. Run them about halfway down. Sometimes taking a little pressure off of with the arm makes it easier to catch it. Put all the rest of the screws in, but just run them down halfway. Don't drop your screwdriver either. Don't forget the 7th screw. Now, rather than trying to hold that up with your fingers, get an adjustable wrench. Just put it on there, used for leverage. Pull it up until it stops. That way the diaphragm is preloaded. It'll last longer, and you'll get the right amount of pressure out of the pump. Get at least 4 of the screws down all the way. Yeah, I know, I just did all 6 of them. Tighten up the 7th. And now you can test it again to make sure you got all the screws tight and you got all the seals and everything. Pull that arm up, hold your finger over the outlet, and you'll feel pressure. On the inlet, you want to leave it relaxed, block it up, try to pull it up, and you'll feel suction. If all else works, all that works, you've done a super job. And you shouldn't have any problems with it on the car. This one's ready to go back. Another job well done. If you want to order a kit, remember, use that number that's stamped on here. If it's not stamped on here, it'll be on a tag. Give those numbers in the application to whoever answers the phone. 781-335-8860. On the web at then-now.com. And if you haven't already, click on the subscribe button, also the notification bell, and that'll let you know that next time I put up another video, which will probably be pretty quick, and you'll get notified. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section, and if you want me to do a pump that you're getting ready to do, just let me know.